Welcome back to your Daily Dose. My name is Robert, here with Will Townsley, brother Will. And we're talking at this point all things Boys of Summer. This is a documentary series which started in 2004. Dad and I hitting the road 2 months, 20,000 miles to see a game at each of the 30 major league ballparks. And when it came time to put that film together, well, one of the stops on the way, of course, was seeing you and Chris at Pete's. And it was an important part of the journey. I think back to that film now, because I think Dad and I were only about a little past maybe 10 days on the road at that point, pretty early. And, the long road was yet ahead of us. And yet also got a great check in to hear from my mom, to hear from my sister. What do they think about where my dad's at? And, Dad was early in his Parkinson's at that point, still very ambulatory, still very, could still drive, all those things. So when we started thinking about the music for that first film, can you think back? I know this is going back. I know this is 20 years ago now because it was 2005 we cut this. Can you at all think back to what you were thinking as we started to lay down the music? I mean, I have some idea, but what do you remember?
Um, what I remember is being a little bit, I'll use the term in the dark
Mhm.
because um, I I knew what Parkinson's was,
Right.
and I just based on what you told me, I had already had an emotional connection to the film. But in hindsight, I can honestly say that wow, I was at the beginning of that journey and I just didn't see where it was going. It's interesting that through the progression, not only of your father's illness, but just our working relationship, everything, just how that's progressed. And the more I've learned personally, just from working on your projects. And it's definitely been an eye opener for me. And I feel, we're talking about Dad was here, and the first time out, uh, the first demo, I'd actually gotten choked up
Yeah.
um, singing it because I thought, wow, I don't know if I can do this. He may have to give this to somebody else, but not over the years. The short answer is I've got to know you better. I've got to know your folks a little bit more in depth, and it was great seeing them a couple of years ago at the Field of Dreams. And but I've seen the progression, and I guess part of me was, I thought I was super excited as well. I remember I thought, not only is this a great step for me, but I see this as being a great step for Parkinson's awareness. And it, you know, I, I I thought we'd be a little bit farther along than we
Mhm.
are now, as far as people, and I'm sure developments have been made, but I guess I was just hopeful that, that wow, this thing should have been nipped in the bud 15 years ago.
Well, you know the story, I think. I think we've talked about it that, at that time, and maybe we were even, sharing that. Certainly as part of the film was, a cure within 10 years. Muhammad Ali and Michael J. Fox, God
Yeah,
bless them, were trumpeting that call. And it was stem cells and all this. It didn't happen. And it's nobody's fault per se,
right.
but it's heartbreaking that it didn't happen. And you're right. I mean, that, before I go too far into the second step there, I just want to step back to go, um, when we were thinking about the music for this, I think the first thing was to put this story, we had a cross country trip. That was a big part of it. Father son relationship and this bigger than life disease, which at the time, like you said, was a little bit undersold in terms of what it meant, because I think at that point we were, I don't want to say oblivious, but we were ignorant to having it long term. We just didn't know, and we were hopeful that, hey, this is going to be over. So the film, I don't know if you remember this. Um, it actually it's pretty well received. They see the ratings. The latest like 8.7 out of 10. That's great.
Yeah.
Um, but people said the problem from distributors, because I did try to bring it to some folks in Hollywood. They said you and your dad get along too well. There wasn't enough dramatic tension in the film.
What's wrong with that?
Well, I get what the execs are saying, especially now because I mean I really teach these things and whatever. From a story standpoint, if you don't have obstacles, it becomes a little bit like what's the problem, and the film did have them. I mean, we're mostly dealing with my stress of dealing with trying to make the film happen. It was a behind the scenes of the scenes, and it was fine. But because Parkinson's was seen at the time as kind of a light thing, hey, we'll get over this, and yeah, it sucks, but we're doing all right. um it kind of hurt, I think, the dramatic aspect of the film, not the enjoyability. It did what it did and it was fine,
Yeah.
but it's interesting, any way to think of that.
Well,
And
you would, I felt like the conflict was introduced early on with the Parkinson's diagnosis.
oh yeah, you're right. But therein lies the rub, right? If people don't, what is Parkinson's? And again, here's the problem with Parkinson's is people really they lean into that idea of it's not that bad, or they say it's an old white man's disease,
Right.
and then it gets limited as to just that. So I mean, yeah, we could unpack all kinds of Parkinson's things, trust me. But I swear we're going to talk music in a minute. Let's come back because I really do want to talk about some of our musical influences because it's a fascinating part of this, and we'll do more. But hold on, we'll be right back with your next dose.